Hola, hola, kiddos. This is your boy Tico Trend, and I'm gonna talk about something I learned from 7 YouTubers from different walks of life, all Republican. That I've actually learned from them about the Western world and statistics, and especially in America. One of the YouTubers are black. Two of them are Asian, from Asian descent. One Arab, one from the Asian Orients. I can't really tell what he is because I've never really asked. I think he might be either Chinese or Japanese, but I didn't really ask, so I'm just assuming that he's one or the other. And the rest were all white YouTubers that are all Republican when it comes to statistics. And I was actually watching their channels, and something had came up, and I basically was able to email all of them, and all of them got back to me in a timely manner. So now I'm making this video about statistics I've noticed in America, Western world, especially more so in America, for the most part at large, was all the statistics that we see when it comes to like your marriages and crime rate is actually somewhat manipulated or hyper skewed for the most part. I've learned from them because what happens with those statistics is, in the case of black criminals, only 1% of the population actually commits crime. Okay, cool. 1% of the black population commits crime. Unfortunately, if that crime is done in a black neighborhood, they basically let that black guy out to go commit more crimes. So every single crime that he commits gets counted towards that statistic. However, if the black guy is in a white neighborhood, they'll just pretty much lock that nigga up and make sure he can't be admitted to society for the most part. But if he's in a black community, statistically, they're more likely to, there's a 80, 90, or 70% chance that they'll pretty much let him go so he can go back out and commit some more crimes. The sad part about it is, like I was saying, 1% of the black population actually commits all these fucking crimes, but it paints the whole entire black population in a negative light for the most part, because what happens with that is they're not counting a bunch of crimes that a bunch of black people committed. They're counting crimes that 1% of the black population continuously keep committing. When in fact, if you would have arrested that nigga, we wouldn't have all these crimes and kept him in jail like you would in a white neighborhood. And the white guys and the black guy actually brought that to my attention, that if a black guy commits these crimes and he's in a white neighborhood, he's actually going to jail and he's not getting out. If he does these crimes and he's in a black community or a poor community, there's a 70 to 90% chance that they're just going to let him walk free for the most part, and he'll continuously commit these crimes for the most part, or commit various crimes, because it's one of them things where it's like he didn't learn his lesson, so therefore it makes the statistics look favorable for the most part. And this is where a lot of the high ass crime statistics actually come from. The 1% of the 12.6% or 12.7% of the motherfuckers in the United States, 1% of those people are actually committing all the crimes for the most part. And it's sad, but like they literally let this shit go on for the most part, and they literally count the same person over and over again instead of being able to count various people committing all these crimes. They literally count the same 1% of the 1% of the niggas that's actually committing these crimes over and over and over again, and that's how we get the statistic of 50%, or the statistic of, these high ass numbers for the most part, if you know what I mean. Because the 1% of motherfuckers that are committing a crime go out and repeat these crimes, and they actually count those crimes also as different, like it's a different crime for the most part, when in fact that it's the same motherfucker committing the same group of crimes for the most part. And this is how you get these high ass skewed statistical numbers. The same actually goes for marriage, I found out. The actual percentage of people divorce is high because statistically they don't they also take into account all the people who get remarried and divorced over and over and over again. That counts as its own act for the most part. So every time somebody gets a divorce and they go to their second divorce, they get on their third divorce, they're on their fifth divorce, they're on their fourth divorce, they're on their sixth divorce. So every single time that this happens, this gets counted as a different occurrence. So the actual number of the divorce rate is actually skewed based on them counting the same 10%, I believe it was, of people. I think it's 10% of people who actually get remarried over and over again and end up divorced for the most part. Over and over again. So the marriage numbers is actually very much so skewed too. I forget the actual number that he told me it actually is for the actual divorce rate versus the divorce rate including all the people who get remarried and divorced on a regular, the people who are like serial marriage and divorce people actually are. I think it's like, I believe, I forget the actual number, but the actual marriage divorce rates is actually much lower than what it's actually playing out to look like for the most part. Because, like I said, just like the black people who commit crime over and over again, they count that crime as its own separate thing for the most part. They forget the fact that it's the same person committing the crime, but fuck it, it's a crime, so we just count it over and over again. Meanwhile, it's only 1% of the population actually committing these fucking crimes. The same goes for marriage. It's the same, I think it's 10 or 20% of people who get a divorce are seriously being serial divorce people, and they actually count these occurrences, and it actually bumps up the divorce numbers for the most part because they recount their shit because these motherfuckers can't seem to want to fix themselves or make themselves better, so they think that they don't have to change, and obviously was the last person. But after a while, you have to learn that there's something wrong with your ass if you can't stay in a relationship. It's not the other person's fault if you get a divorce. There's something about you that fucked up. And these are people who get like multiple divorces. I mean, not one single divorce. Just people who get like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 divorces. At some point, you need to actually look at yourself and figure out yourself and say, maybe there's something about me that's fucked up. I mean, don't get me wrong. The people that I picked were probably poor picks. So obviously that says something about my character. If I can't pick things properly or people properly to actually be with me and to be in my life, obviously I got to reassess myself and reassess my picking strategy or my mating strategy to actually better myself. A lot of these people, the sad part about it is there's a good portion of these people who actually are serial marriage and divorcers because they don't like being alone. And that's just facts. So they get into a relationship because they don't want to be alone because they're afraid of being alone. And that's the thing. Like, you have to actually make time to actually rebuild yourself as a human being. After you get a divorce. I mean, because at the end of the day, a relationship actually has two people in it. You can't tell me, even crimes, there's more than one person in this crime. When it comes to crime especially, because like there was a court system that actually let this shit go on and kind of figured we can, make it so it looks like this for the most part. Then you got people who get into marriages that don't think they need to change, or they pick the wrong people, but they want to complain about it, and they end up like second time divorce or divorcee, or third time divorce or divorcee, fifth time divorce and divorcee, sixth time divorce and divorcee. And I see people like that like very pathetically. Like, some point you actually got to review either yourself or your choices. That's the only thing. That's the only two things that could possibly be wrong with that. Your choices and yourself. And that's the thing that I've always said and stated in a lot of my videos. Your choices and yourself. Your choices and yourself. It's that simple. And the sad part about it, even if it's your choices, there's something about you that you got to assess on why you actually made that choice. Either way, it's going to come back to you no matter what. So you always got to assess yourself no matter how you sugarcoat it or color it or make it so. You always got to come back and actually redo it all over again for the most part. And it sucks, but it is what it is. But I digress.